Okay, welcome to the Main Basketball Rankings podcast. We are doing this live with Griffin Conlogue from Mount Blue and also the state of Maine's only Cleveland Cavaliers fan.
Maybe,
So,
maybe only New England.
in all of New England,
Maybe.
how? So, first of all, let's start right there. How does someone become a Cleveland Cavaliers fan in Maine? Is it a LeBron thing or is there like a Mark Price jersey in your closet somewhere?
It was actually an anti-LeBron thing is kind of how it really started. So I've been a Cavs fan since the year LeBron left for Miami.
Okay.
So the weirdest. Yeah. So basically what happened was I was a Celtics fan growing up. I mean, living here, and just kind of never that into it, but just like, everyone's a Celtics fan around here. So I'll be a Celtics fan. And then just kind of was like, at that age when I was like I wasn't passionate enough. So I was looking for a team. And I was a big video game player. And when I get 2K, I start up with the worst team in the league and start a franchise and try to build something there. And the Cavaliers were the worst team in the league. So I was playing a lot of Anthony Parker and Alonzo G and JJ Hickson and guys like that. And
Wow.
and then the Kyrie Irving thing is probably Kyrie Irving was really the thing that kind of probably made it stick. Not a lot of rookies as fun as him, and it just kind of became easy to continue on for those 4 years before LeBron came back. Made my peace with it when LeBron came back and figured it out. I was a LeBron hater growing up, but yeah, that's really what kind of got it going. Video games.
So Anthony Bennett gets drafted, and you're like, "This is my team."
Yeah, I mean those drafts. I have a lot of love for Dion Waiters. But it wasn't like the Cavaliers were landing, we're nailing draft picks year after year after Kyrie Irving. So, Dion Waiters, Tristan Thompson are fine, I suppose. But yeah, Anthony Bennett in a draft that's bad. I don't know if you can get much worse than landing Anthony Bennett. I would have Oladipo or even Nerlens Noel. I would have loved, but yeah,
Yeah.
Anthony.
And he was a guy, he was fun in college. Like, I remember watching him in the tournament. I'm like, okay, this guy's something. And then they're like, we're going to take him number one overall. I'm like, well, I don't know about that. That doesn't seem like a good idea at all.
Yeah, and he came in so out of shape and just wasn't. I mean, it took like 10 games before he even scored a basket. I think it was. Yeah. The writing was on the wall pretty immediately with that one.
So do you?
There were other experiments in that time. Andrew Bynum and oof.
Oh, yeah. So did you remain a Celtics fan as well? Are you a two-team person, or did you just switch completely?
I actually never liked Paul Pierce.
Wow.
I never liked Rondo. Yeah, so
Wow.
I liked Kevin Garnett a lot. Kevin Garnett was my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't like
Rondo.
Rondo.
It was not a ripping the band. It was no.
Wow. Wow. Because a lot of people, they'll have like their second team will be like a Western Conference team, and they'll go from there. But so it's weird to go from it to stay in the Eastern Conference. It's just interesting to me.
Well, I always had a Western Conference team because Tim Duncan is my favorite professional athlete of all time. My dog's named Duncan after Duncan, so I was always a Spurs guy. I remember when I was like, I don't know, 5 years old, 6 years old, my dad gave me a David Robinson like holographic trading card and just
Yeah.
I was always enough into the Spurs, but I wasn't staying up till 10 p.m. to watch West Coast basketball games, and so that's part of it. Yeah.
All right. So I asked you on here because we needed a Cavaliers fan, and so we're gonna go through this series a little bit. Now, there's no pressure, but Mike Mandel did the Heat one, and he nailed the order of games. So I'm not saying that you have to be able to pick the exact order of games, but that's the bar that's been set by Mike Mandel. So hopefully you feel up to it.
I got it.
All right.
You're going to like my prediction, I'm sure.
So my first question is, if you were to say to me, hey, how often does Sam Hauser get white hot from three? I would go, every couple games. It happens. Probably happened once or twice in this series. So how often does Dean Wade get white hot from three in, say, the fourth quarter down 20?
I think once in his whole entire career.
Okay.
And Dean Wade's. I'm not sure we're going to be seeing any Dean Wade this series.
Is he out?
I haven't played in a long time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
See, this is why
He's
I had you
dealing
on
with
here,
wear
because
and
this
tear.
is
His knee.
his knee. Okay. See, because you see a team like 2 or 3 times during the year, and then you see him again in the playoffs. You're like, what happened? Where did this guy go? What's happening here? Okay, so Cleveland.
Yeah, so he's.
All right, you're cutting out a little bit there, but all right. So Cleveland, just for the regular season, for people who didn't want to look this up, 18th in the league in offensive rating, 6th in defensive rating, 13th in net, 15th in 3-point percentage, but 7th in threes made, so they get them up, and then 17th in rebounding and turnovers. Does that sound like about right? Like, is that sort of the profile of this team?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that you can really break the Cavs season into 3 chunks. So that first half of the season, we were playing 500 basketball. I mean, we were dealing with so many injuries. Garland broke his face like a handful of games in. Mobley missed a huge chunk of games. And honestly, we started to get successful around 30 something games in. And then I think biggest thing coming into the season, JB Bickerstaff, the head coach, was kind of trying to implement a new offense. A lot more ball movement, a lot less just Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland trading off ISO ball. And so that took a minute to get in. And then when it kind of started to really get implemented was when Garland and Mobley went down for, a month of the season. And so actually that shift of time when we started to go to Sam Merrill more and we started to go to George Niang more and we started to give Max Strus more options, the Cavs were unbelievable. So like middle of December to end of January, I think they had the best record in the league. And it was going with a pretty soft schedule, but they beat the Bucks a couple times in that span and we're playing really well. And then post All-Star game, everything kind of just fell apart. Mitchell was dealing with a bunch of injuries and kind of dealing with knee tendonitis and was getting like injections in his knee. And so that last third of the season was pretty ugly. Kind of turned around a few times in the last handful of games, but we've been limping to the finish line at this point, and it hasn't been pretty.
So that middle section, the good section, was that pretty much right after Cleveland played Boston back to back? Because that was the 12th and the 14th of December. Did they go on a run pretty much right after that?
Pretty much. I think they lost. I think they went something like 20-3 over that span. Where just the offense was humming. Jared Allen was, I think, running in second probably at that point for Defensive Player of the Year behind Gobert, and was just like Jared Allen had his best season. He was phenomenal all year, and when he went down in the first round, it kind of was when we started to play some pretty hideous basketball. But yeah, Jared Allen kind of stepped up big. And then those role players just really were huge. Isaac Okoro's growth has been massive this season. He's never been able to hit consistently from 3. He's kind of just been a streaky guy who could get to the rim and good athlete, great defender. And then Dean Wade, like you pointed out earlier, I'm not like huge on like tracking like all the insane statistics, but I just randomly on Twitter saw he had passed Herb Jones for the best stats for perimeter defense and was hitting 40% of threes. And it just everything was kind of clicking, and then more injuries and everything. Just that All-Star break kind of derailed the season.
You mentioned Jared Allen. He's out, right? And how long is he out?
So I'm blanking now because I actually didn't even get to see them because I coached way too many sports. But games 3 and 4, somewhere in one of those, he took an elbow to the rib on a box out from Mo Wagner and has not come back yet. Game 6, he traveled with the team and got some shots up during shoot around, and then didn't end up getting the call up to play. And then game 7, didn't really hear anything about him even kind of trying to warm up or anything. And didn't play that one either. So I think he's one that I could definitely see coming back. Some video leaked to Dean Wade kind of moving around a little bit while shooting, but like a week ago, he wasn't even moving. He was just standing and shooting. So
okay, so he'll be back before Porzingis is back.
Allen, yes, I think so. I think he might miss a game or 2, but I think he'll give it a go.
Okay, so that could be pretty big because Jared Allen's pretty awesome without Porzingis there. That's definitely something where I could see the Cavs having an advantage.
Yeah, and I think the biggest advantage would be allowing Mobley to defend Tatum. because in the Orlando series, Mobley was our only option to stop Paolo Banchero, however you pronounce it, until Game 7 when Isaac Okoro stepped up and was awesome. But then at the same time, Mobley's our only rim protector if we don't have Allen. And so he can't do both jobs at the same time. And so if he's guarding Tatum, the rim's going to be wide open. And if he's not guarding Tatum, Tatum's going to 40.
So you're sort of screwed either way in that situation until Allen gets back, at least.
We need one of those two. We need Wade or Allen back. Yeah.
Okay. So Mobley, he, like, the word on him was really good, and then it sounds like it's cooled. And I was gonna look into this, and then I thought I'll just ask you. So, is that an accurate perception, or am I just listening to the wrong podcasts?
I think he had a huge step up in year 2 from year 1. The offense got more efficient. It's tough. I mean, we have Donovan Mitchell who's going to get his shots up and average close to 30 a night. You got Garland, you got Max Strus even will have plays drawn for him. And so there's a lot of players on the team, a lot of mouths to feed. And so I think the progress was there. I think injuries this season kind of derailed everything going for him. I don't think he's been bad at any moments. When he first came back from his long injury where he hurt his meniscus, I thought he was playing the best defense of his career. And then it kind of slowed down a little bit. And Allen's really taken a lot of that positivity. But his defense was just remarkable in the round 1 series. Like, he had 21 blocks. He was either, helping at the rim and allowing Banchero to get his points, or slowing down Banchero and, giving up some other points from other guys. But no matter what he was asked to do, he was doing it at an elite level on the defensive end. Offensively, he still just misses too many of those mid-range shots. Specifically, he's got length. He can get above everybody, but he's still just kind of finishing off dunks. He had a little stretch where he was hitting threes pretty well, but just not at a high rate or anything. So he's fine. I think he just needs more touches to kind of really develop into the elite player that I think he should be and can be. So
So the first round series, I saw a crazy stat and then I couldn't find it again, but I think it was like the Cleveland was outscored by 31 in the series, and it was the first time in 20 years or something someone had been outscored by that many and won the series. And then I only got to watch games 6 and 7 of that because it was on such at weird times. You'd go, I wonder what time the
NBA.
Yeah. And I'm like, I wonder when the Orlando Cleveland game is on. It's over. Okay. So what, it was a weird series. There was blowouts all over the place, right? And then Game 7 was really interesting.
Yeah, so Game 1 and 2 had deceptive scores because I think they wound up being in the 12 to 15 range. But those were games where Cleveland was up by 20 basically the whole game. And then Orlando would get a little run, in the fourth quarter, get it down to 10, and then Cleveland would kind of step on it and get it back up to 18, and then ended, around 12. And it never was in doubt, and it was always pretty big. And then just Orlando would hit a 9-0 run with a minute and 30 seconds left to make it look a little bit closer than it was. And then 2 and 3 were, 3 and 4 got down to Orlando and just were dreadful. I mean, that third game was over before it started. And then Game 4, I think Cleveland was up at halftime, and I think it was a 54-12 run to start the second half. And just completely fell apart. No one could score. Yeah, and even games, 5, 6, and 7 were not pretty. 5 and 7, especially where 6 actually, that was the Donovan Mitchell when he dropped 50 something. It was just Donovan Mitchell kind of putting the team on his back, and it worked 2 out of 3 times, and that ended up kind of getting the job done there. But the guys, the role players just aren't stepping up. Karis LeVert had a great Game 7, but was kind of ghosted the whole entire series before that. George Niang got benched, fell out of completely removed from the rotation. Merrill barely played. So it's just the role players that you could trust to get 7 to 12 in the regular season were getting 0 to 4, and that just kind of kept those games impossible to predict right up to the end.
Right. So the bench has kind of been a mess, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Even not even just the bench, Strus as well, and Garland. Garland hasn't. He's been inconsistent. He's had moments where all of a sudden he'll get 7 of the last 9 points and the lead will get up, but he's also had times where we're entering the fourth and he's got 3 points or 5 points. It's just Mitchell's the only reliable one, and Allen before he got hurt. But honestly, I think Orlando was better than us the whole series.
I didn't want Orlando because, like, for some reason they just have our number. It's one of those teams where they could win 5 games on the season and 2 of them would be against us, and it just seems to be miserable to play down there. I don't know what it is, but I was kind of glad to get Cleveland, although I don't relish the idea of trying to go against Donovan Mitchell for a couple games, however many games it is. And then Mo Wagner
Yeah,
like kills
Orlando's
us.
tough. Yeah, I don't like that guy. I have never really loved him or anything. He's never been a fan, but he's the one player I came away that series being like, oh, I just don't. This guy sucks. I hate this guy. And I mean, I don't. Franz Wagner is not much better, but he's a good player. But Banchero is awesome. That guy's going to be one of the faces of the league, I think, in the next couple of years. I just came away every game so impressed with him. Second year player, looking like a 5 or 6 year vet.
Oh yeah,
Fun team. They're going to be good. They need another piece or two. Should be serious, but they're going to be good.
yeah. Okay, so you mentioned Max Strus. We all have PTSD from Max Strus from last year from the Miami series. What is the likelihood that he's going to have a historic outlier shooting performance again and be the most hated person in Boston?
I think I'll have one game where he looks like he did last year, but I don't know. It's hasn't been falling for him. The shot's not looking great. He's always been a heat check guy. You know, it's not like he's ever had great percentages across his career. Like his 3-point numbers are good. He shoots a high volume, but the percentage is at like league average. It's not like he's someone that is unbelievable. And so he's in a cold streak right now. He entered that the Celtics series last year on a hot streak. I don't think he's going to be. I think he'll have a game where he plays pretty well, and I think the other handful, if it's the amount I'm predicting in a few minutes here, I don't think he's going to be doing too much damage.
Well, that's encouraging. He had a moment in the game 7 where I think I tweeted like, what the hell is this guy doing? Where they came down to a shot clock, end of the shot clock violation, and they passed him the ball and he wasn't behind the 3-point line. So he took a dribble to get back behind the 3-point line and didn't get the shot off. And I'm like, dude, just take the shot, take the long 2 in that situation. There's 1 second on the shot clock. And then I was just like, oh, this guy.
He's a good culture guy. I think like we needed some real a-holes coming in after last year. It was kind of a joke of the team. It was positive in the regular season where the Cavs fans were like, I think Darius Garland, after one of our big wins, I think we beat, I don't even remember who it was, but it was like a big win over one of the top teams in one of the conferences. And he just said, we're just a bunch of nice guys or something like that. And then we got clowned on it by the Knicks fans in the playoffs. Yeah, so I think bringing him and Yang and Morris has kind of given the team, and Tristan Thompson, kind of given the team a handful of kind of guys that can be a little psycho when you need be. And so I think that will help a little bit here and there. But I just don't think we're in the same class as Boston right now. So it's just like, yeah.
What's the story on Garland? Is because he seems from over here that he hasn't really panned out the way everybody hoped, and it's certainly not the way Cleveland hoped when they traded for that pick in the Kyrie deal, which was like that was the crown jewel of Boston's assets, and it seems like it's maybe the worst piece or one of the worst pieces of that deal.
That draft pick wasn't Darius Garland. That was Colin Sexton. That ended up being Colin Sexton.
Oh, right.
So Colin Sexton, I love Colin Sexton. He was fun. He that first year he was like, it was shades of Kyrie at times with how he was performing, and he had that one season where he averaged like 23, 5 and 5, and he was just so small though, and there was always that he's better as a 6th man type story. But I'll never forget him ruining game 1 of the Big 3 in Brooklyn when they got James Harden, Kyrie, and Durant all together, their first game together, and Colin Sexton tore them up. But no, Garland, it's tough. He was looking really great that one year that we played in the play-in and didn't make the playoffs. Atlanta knocked us out there. And he was looking really good that year. And then we traded Mitchell, and for me, it's really just the fit with the two of them. I don't know. I liked it a lot of last year, and this year it just hasn't really kind of looked great at any moment. They haven't really kind of figured out how to play together in a way that makes them, play to each other's strengths. They're not helping each other out. They both look great at times, but obviously Mitchell is a much better player than Garland. Garland also, he's been through this season tons of injuries. He broke his face very early. And then I think he broke his jaw again against the Celtics. He kind of like took a weird hip from Porzingis on a screen.
Mhm.
And then I think he had I think his grandmother passed away or something personal in his family this season that kind of really impacted his like mental health and stuff like that. And so I think this is a weird outlier season for him. I think he'll be back to, efficient 21-7 like he was the 2 years before that. But yeah, I just don't know about the fit there with him and Mitchell. So
Well, the question, of course, is will Donovan Mitchell stick around? Or is he gonna like? What are the odds that he's there long term?
yeah, I don't. It's hard to get the vibe because Donovan Mitchell's seems like a really really great guy, a great leader, a great locker room guy in every aspect, and just he says the right things at all times. He loves talking to the crowd and hyping up the crowd, and he's really like just engages with the fans and everything. And so he's very invested from like all like if you're looking at it, he looks very much 100% all in on Cleveland and playing for Cleveland. And then at the same time, you never know. It's a very small market. The first time I went to Cleveland, it was not a very fun place to visit, and then every time I've gone since, it's been nicer and nicer. Yeah,
I
it's
can
weird. I know
confirm
I'm
that.
from Maine,
Yeah.
and I've been to Cleveland like 4 times. So Cleveland's a nice place, and there's really nice places to live and things like that. So I could see him being comfortable there, but then also like he's from New York, and there's always that New York connection. And I do think I think JB will be gone after the season. I don't think unless we beat the Celtics, he's probably not sticking around.
Right.
And so I think the next coach will probably have a lot to do with that. And I love JB Bickerstaff. He's a fantastic transition coach. He helped build a great culture here and got us to where we are now. But I don't think he's the coach to put us into the true contender space. And so like I think he'll be gone, and you never know with that. But he's got one more year regardless, and so he'll either be traded or he'll be back, and we'll see. That Garland deal is definitely going to be too hard to move, I think. So I don't
Mhm.
think that there's really flexibility to move him and kind of find a new pairing there. So I think they'll either have to make it work or Mitchell will be gone.
I think Cleveland and Pittsburgh both have really improved as places to live in the past 10, 15 years. So that probably helps. I don't think the mistake by the lake is as accurate as it used to be.
No, I
You
went
know?
in 2015 when I was my last year of college, and it was fine. It was an okay place. It wasn't great. The people were friendly. And then I went back, I think first time like 19 or so, and I was like, oh, this place is like beautiful, and like the LeBron economy of it definitely I would assume probably gave a nice boost. And yeah, it's just been developed really well, and great food scene, great place. So like you never know. And like Kevin Love spoke really like great about living there, and there's been a lot of like the guys talking about how nice it is to live there. So it's not like I don't know, it's a weird thing. Yeah, who knows?
Is it the LeBron economy or is it the Drew Carey glow up? That's the real question, I think.
It could definitely be that. I think yeah, maybe Kid Cudi raising his profile helped a bit too there.
Okay.
You can't tell
Um,
I'm all in on Cleveland. I know I'm a Guardians fan now as well. That's a new thing for me. So
I hear it rocks. I hear Cleveland rocks. So there's
fun
that.
place.
I mean, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is very nice. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, great. I love that
So,
place.
how do you think they match up with Boston? I think we all know the Boston story, juggernaut of an offense. Porzingis isn't there, but that means just more Luke Cornett minutes. And he was awesome in game 5 against the Heat. So, like, how does the matchup look for you other than, Mobley's got to guard Tatum right now?
I genuinely think that the games could all be competitive, even in a 4-game sweep. It could be 4 competitive games if Allen or Dean Wade play. I don't think it's going to be pretty if neither one of those guys are available. I just don't think we match up defensively well enough. We can't have that many guys that aren't offensive options on the floor, and we just don't have the guys that can keep you honest from 3-point range and also defend, besides adding in Dean Wade, because Dean Wade's a great shooter who's also a great perimeter defender and can guard Tatum, and then can also match up with 4s and 5s and post players. But like Okoro's small and he'll do great on whoever he's going to guard, but it's he can't guard Tatum for 4 or more games. and do great. He just doesn't have the length for that. And I think if we have Dean Wade, I think that makes Mobley the most dangerous player in the series. I think if we have Jared Allen, I think Jared Allen will be the most dangerous player in the series for us. But I just think we need one of them. And I don't know. I'm hoping Allen's back for game one.
Yeah, because if Mobley has to guard Tatum, they can just stick Tatum in the corner and you can't help off him. So you can sort of neutralize Mobley in that way, and then everybody else can go to work on whoever's left.
I honestly think the most dangerous thing would be getting the ball in Tatum's hand with Mobley on him. And then those cuts off ball are just going to rip them apart. Brown would find so many lanes to the hoop. And Tatum's an underrated passer. He's a good playmaker. And I just think the ball movement that the Celtics have, the pace that they can play at on the offensive end, I think without a rim protector and a perimeter defender to take away Tatum, there's not a lot of answers on that end. And I think there will be a game or two where Mitchell will go nuclear and probably keep it really close and maybe steal one. But yeah, that defense concerns me without those two guys. If we're playing Morris and Tristan Thompson, and I know Tristan Thompson has a great legacy of eating Al Horford's lunch, but that has been a handful of years since that was the case. So
yeah, it's been a little bit of a while. The thing I've been hearing is that the strategy might be just let Mitchell do his thing and then see if the other guys can score 40 points. Like if the rest of the lineup can't score 40, 50 points, then it doesn't really matter what Donovan Mitchell does.
Yeah, and I do think that our bigs will get a handful of points just by not having Porzingis in there. I like Horford a lot. He's just getting up there in age, and as the series goes on, he's got a lot of miles on those legs. He's played probably more basketball than anyone not named LeBron James over the last handful of years. And then you also got Cornette, who's got great length, and he'll do a good job on Mobley as well. And you could see those other guys, get a few minutes here. What's the guy that you got from Memphis at the trade deadline? And yeah, so he could come in and make an impact, especially if we're playing Morris or Niang big minutes at the 4, if needed. And I think the Celtics have a lot of flexibility in that matchup too. But I do think the bigs will get, a handful of points, but it's really going to come down to, can Garland get anything rolling? Can Strus be at least consistent from 3? And can we, find a way to not hide Sam Merrill out there on defense enough for him to hit 2 or 3 threes in a game?
And I think a big thing for Boston will be how much can Tillman and Cornette keep Horford's minutes down, so that if the series stretches, if it gets to 6-7 games, not even maybe for this series, but we're just trying to keep him as fresh as possible for as long as possible, because we don't know how long Porzingis is going to be gone. We think he'll be back for the conference finals should we get there, but it's calf injury. You don't want to mess with those.
Yeah, you never know. Those muscular ones, you can kind of drag out, and you get given a timetable that's 1 to 2 weeks, and then it stretches out to 2 to 4, and you never know.
Yeah. All right, so let's see, what are you thinking for a prediction? And I'll remind you that Mike Mandel nailed it. He had the reverse gentleman sweep where Miami gets game 2, causes a mass panic in the Boston media landscape, and then the series is over. So what are we thinking?
All right. Game 1 will be a massive blowout for Boston. I think that,
Boston's favored by 11.5.
Yeah, you can up that to 17.5, I bet. I think Boston's going to come out punch them in the mouth and want to take all the wind out of Cleveland's sails going into that one. I do think 2 it might be a little bit closer, but I do think that Boston will win that one as well. Cleveland looked horrible the first 2 games in Orlando, and then that last one, it was close, but then at the end, they just kind of fell apart. So I just don't think they're going to look great on the road. It gets tough with the game 3 and 4. So I am betting on Allen coming back.
Okay.
And so I do think Cleveland takes game 3.
Okay.
So that's going to be the one that I think they're going to take.
I'm writing this down.
I very much think that this could be a 4-game sweep.
Okay.
I think Cleveland played terrible. I think if Allen is back, I'm going to go Cleveland in game 3 in a close one. And then I think Boston's taken 4, and then Boston's going to win it in 5 at home.
Okay. So the middle game, and unless Dean Wade just decides to come back and hit 6 threes in a quarter again, for ridiculous reasons.
That was a special night. Probably I was a Celtics hater. I was a Celtics hater, and I am a massive Celtics hater. I
Uh-huh.
follow a lot of Celtics fans, obviously, because I live around here. And that
Yeah.
I think how Boston feels about Miami is how I feel about Boston. And most of it stems
Okay.
from Game 4, 2015. Kelly Olynyk, Jay Crowder, a bunch of guys who I hate. And hate is a nice way to put it, because I hate Kelly Olynyk more than anybody who's ever played in the NBA for what
Is it
he
his
did to
hair?
Kevin Love. So, oh no, it's ripping someone's shoulder out of socket. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah. I guess that's probably worse than the hair.
yeah. And then I
Although the
mean,
hair's pretty bad.
hair's pretty bad. He's up there in Canada though. I bet he'll play up there for the rest of his career. So we don't have to worry about him too much. But yeah, and then I just hated Jay Crowder, and I hated a lot of those guys. That game was ugly, and it was going to be a pretty clear sweep, and it got a little violent and a little bit on both ends. I don't know if you remember Jay Crowder getting punched in the face by J.R. Smith, and
I think I do remember that.
he popped him. And Kendrick Perkins was on the Cavs that year and went out and laid out, I believe, also Jay Crowder, and ever since then, it's been a real like violent hatred for the Celtics. And so, yeah, I'm not a fan.
That's rough. I lived in Pittsburgh for a while, and the Steelers are my least favorite team, and I lived literally across the river from the stadium. And let me tell you, it was painful at times. Like I had to stop watching games. I just couldn't do it.
I think I've come to terms with the fact that all fans are annoying, but just being surrounded by all the fans of the team that you hate is just like, it makes it seem like Celtics fans are a special kind of annoying. But I'm sure every
Hmm.
fan in every city is very annoying. It's just I live amongst all of them, so I have 13-year-olds picking on me every time the Celtics beat the Cavs every day at school. So
Well, I think that maybe the difference is Miami because they just don't have any fans. They just have some people who want nice
that's true.
seats at a game, and they leave early, and
Yeah.
couldn't tell you anything about anything basketball related.
Late to arrive and getting early to beat traffic. So
Yeah. All right. So who is,
I
since you hate the Celtics so much, give me your favorite and least favorite current Celtic on the team.
all right.
If you have to pick a favorite,
Yeah. Let me pull up the roster, see if I can find some guy that plays on the G League team, maybe.
Jordan Walsh is great.
Yeah, I like him. I do like him. Let's see. Let's look at a good list of this roster, see if there's someone. I like Drew Holiday. That's how do you hate Drew Holiday? That guy's,
Drew Holiday's great.
his wife's an incredible soccer player. And yeah, no, I like him a lot. Let's see. Yeah, Drew. I'll go with Drew Holiday. Yeah, that's the guy. Or Svi Mikhailuk. Maybe Svi.
He's great. He's in that white boy lineup off the bench. He
Yeah.
probably is not good. If he plays in this series, things are not going well for you.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Yeah.
And then who is your least
My
favorite?
most hated is very easy.
Is it just Tatum?
It's Jason Tatum. It's just Tatum.
Okay.
And it's not
Is it just because he's the
it's
best
not
player?
because he's the best player on the team.
Okay.
No. I think that Jason Tatum's the most boring superstar in the NBA. That's my hot take.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think he's got bad media skills. I don't think he's ever come across as interesting. I think the only thing he's really got going for him is that he seems like a great dad, which is great and it's cute. But I just think he just is boring, and like you listen to him talk and he's not electric, and he just doesn't kind of have that energy. And there's other guys like that. I don't like Kevin Durant's vibe. There's, I hate Draymond. There's other guys that I just like that are like stars in the league that I just aren't, their vibe isn't something I like. But with Tatum, I just think he's boring. I just don't think he's got that it factor, that like he doesn't make people laugh in his press conferences. He doesn't he doesn't have face of the league energy, which I think that the NBA is really trying to push him to be one of the faces of the league as probably the best American player right now. And I just don't think he's got the juice.
He would not, if he had been the bad guy in Hustle instead of Anthony Edwards, it would not have improved the movie. I think that's fair to say.
No, he seems like a great father. and that's lovely and that's awesome and
Yeah.
that's a great thing to celebrate. But I don't know. I just he's not fun like the other mega like stars of the league to me.
Yeah, you wouldn't put him in a movie, really, unless he's just going to play himself in some weird cameo. He doesn't have that Gronk vibe
No.
where you're just like, oh, this guy's a good time. Maybe a dangerous good time. Maybe someone gets arrested at the end of this.
And I do think it's a big reason Marcus Smart exiting the team was probably an ultimately a good thing for the team because Marcus Smart and Grant Williams were my most hated Celtics players by a lot
Oh,
before they left the team. But I think Marcus Smart being kind of the like leader of the team, the heart of the team, kind of the guy that you wanted to like interview after the games and things like that and hear what he had to say. And then also kind of just being like the guy, the alpha dog of the team, kind of probably, in my opinion, always held both Tatum and Brown back a bit. And I do think him removing him from the team, replacing him with a guy like Drew Holiday that can basically do the exact same stuff as him, in my opinion, at a higher level on the defensive end, has kind of helped Tatum and Brown kind of excel a little bit more this year, in my opinion.
yeah, I can see that. As much as I love Marcus Smart, and the thing you lose is you lose the Marcus Smart play, where you're like, what did someone say? He is the greatest player in the history of the NBA when your win percentage is at 2% and there's like 10 seconds left in the game. Like, in that situation, he is unbelievable. And then the rest of the time, it fluctuates. But you could always rely on him to do that one weird, crazy thing that no one saw coming. And I do miss that quite a bit.
Yeah, he's one of those guys for me that kind of falls in the category of like he does a lot of like clown behavior. He does a lot of like what Patrick Beverly does and what guys like that will do. But he's also a lot better than Patrick Beverly. I'm not trying to like
Sure.
take him down to that level, but it is a good thing to have on your team. But it's one of those guys that like if he's not on your team, you're watching him and you're like, okay,
Oh, you hate him.
You're the worst flopper I've ever seen in NBA history. Not named LeBron when LeBron was really at his peak of flopping. And you're just like I know you're a great defender, but like, why are you falling down so easy if you're such a great defender? And just those little things that really kind of get under your skin if you're not a Celtics fan. And that was always my thing with him. Is just like, okay, wait, you're a bad flopper too. You look like you're like acting poorly. You're throwing yourself through the air. And the supercut you can find of him flopping is always one of my favorite things that I'll always watch the 45 seconds of if it comes across my timeline.
I will raise you with why can't Joel Embiid stay on his feet in a basketball game? The man is huge. How are all of these smaller people knocking him over so easily?
You're not gonna get someone to argue against that one. I'm not an Embiid guy at all. Not one bit. If it's not the Cavs, I'm pulling for the Knicks. Villanova.
The Knicks. Fan. Okay. All right. The Knicks would be a fun story.
Like time Villanova.
Do you think the Knicks can take
tearing it up?
You think they can take care of Indiana?
I think so. I think Indiana's defense is kind of one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in a second round of the playoffs, at least at the very least. And I do think they can obviously get red hot and win. I don't think that they would have beat the Bucks had Giannis made it back for even game 5. I just think like I don't know. I am a big Pacers hater. Just as far as like they're fun and it's great to watch a team score so much. But at the same time, like Halliburton hasn't been as his first half of the season, he was clear cut first team All NBA, and then the second half of the season he wasn't even good enough to be on third team All NBA. And he'll probably make it because you average those two out. But I just was a little underwhelmed by his second half of the season and their defense being so just awful and losing Mathurin kind of hurts them a lot, I think. And I just in Jalen Brunson, I trust, that guy's going to continue to, outperform his expectations no matter where he's at. A lot of great Villanova guards in my 20 years of being a fan, but that guy's the best of them. So.
Sure. And I think Milwaukee, even if they were full strength by Indiana, I don't think they have a chance in the second round. Like, they just didn't look.
No.
Even the game when the late season game when they had to play the Celtics, and the Celtics clearly could not have cared less, and they were blowing them out, and they were playing like they were hyped, and I was still looking at them going, these guys are old and slow because Boston's playing 80% here, maybe, and this doesn't seem like this team is that good.
I think there's a really big in the Eastern Conference. I think that the teams outside of um, Boston are kind of either being patient and not really like throwing all their chips in because I don't think they can beat they. I don't think they think they can beat Boston realistically.
Okay.
And so you got teams like New York who are missing their second best player and are still performing at a really high level. Um, but they're not. I mean, I still think they think that they're waiting another a year or two to kind of gel this whole group together and kind of put the final touches on. I don't think Cleveland's a legit contender with JB as their head coach, and I do think that there's still some tinkering to do with that roster, maybe moving Karis LeVert, or trying to figure out one more piece there, maybe trying to upgrade on the wing somehow. And then the Pacers are, they're still a year away. Orlando's still a year or two away. So I
Right.
think a lot of these teams are kind of biding their time as, Al Horford retires in a year or two probably, and you're looking at a team that really can't afford to, bring in anyone else. And so they'll still be really great, but they're not going to be their depth isn't going to be the same unless they hit on some second rounder and Jordan Walsh all of a sudden becomes, an elite role player and things like that. And so I think there's a
When?
patience to the Eastern Conference teams out. Yeah. Yeah. I think they
So
can
it's
turn
kind
into
of like
Hauser, but I'm not sure.
when Golden State was the world beating, everyone in the West sort of went, maybe we keep our powder dry for a year here.
Yeah, I think Houston was really the only team that had any sort of ambition to to push them at that time. And I just really think I think there was probably a move to be made for Milwaukee if they legitimately thought that they could beat Boston and Cleveland even probably. I think they were being patient, but I feel like every team knows that they just don't have the pieces unless they get lucky with a Celtics injury or something. I just don't think they were going to be major buyers. I know the Knicks went out and got Bogdanovich and Alec Burks or whatever at the trade deadline, but there really wasn't major moves besides the OG thing, which just made sense. It didn't make sense to keep all those guards when you could play Dante Moore or Toronto giving up Pascal Siakam, but there wasn't major moves. There wasn't like those tinkering with the roster at the last moment to really try to make that final push. One of those teams could have gone out and gotten Gordon Hayward or something if they actually were ambitious, but I don't think that there
Right.
was that sort of idea of we're going to take it to the Celtics this year. So.
What do you think? What do you think of the situation out west? So Minnesota and the Nuggets looks like it could be a really good series. What's your take on that? I have a theory, but I want to hear yours.
I think that there were five. I think the second through sixth best team in the NBA this year were from the West. I think that the next five teams after the top teams that are still in, those four and the Clippers were the five best teams besides the Celtics this season. And I think there's not a lot of space between them. I think that Luka and Kyrie both could go, on fire and just take a team down. And then I also think that the other three teams have kind of been at the top all season long. I don't think Boston wants to see Denver, but I also don't think they match up that well with Minnesota. So, those all four teams left in the West. I think that I would probably say that the Thunder are probably not ready. But I
Right.
think those other three teams, I think in a finals would be an interesting series against the Celtics. I think Celtics can beat any of them, but I also think that those other three teams really could take it to them.
Denver scares me the most. And I think the thing Ant is doing right now is crazy. And I just keep thinking he's 22 in one of the worst franchises in NBA history. He's 22. And then I was going to look it up to see, like, I was trying to remember I think they got bounced in the first round last year, right? Or did they not make the playoffs?
Yeah,
He hasn't.
was last year the year that they celebrated the play-in win like it was the World Series championship or whatever. They were like Pat Beverly was like
Yeah,
up on the scores table, and yeah.
yeah. And so then I'm just thinking, can a 22-year-old with no playoff success run the table and win the whole thing as the best player on a flawed roster? And I like that's never happened, and I don't think anything close to that has ever happened in the history of sports. Maybe in hockey, maybe like maybe Sidney Crosby or Gretzky or something. But could they beat Denver? Yeah, I think they could. So I'm kind of hoping they beat Denver, and then it just becomes too much for them, and it's like maybe them and OKC, and I think both of those teams are, like you said, I think OKC's not ready, and I don't think Minnesota's ready, but they might be ready next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ant though is having a crazy run.
Yeah, he's so fun. He's one of the most. I think he's always had those questions about how seriously is he taking the game, and I think that if you watch him play, he's taking the game seriously. I think he doesn't take all of it seriously. I don't think he takes All-Star Weekend seriously at all. I mean, he was shooting left-handed in the skills contest and things like that. But like, who cares about that stuff? And so like, those things are always going to make people go like, yeah, but is he actually taking this seriously? But just watch him play, and that guy's electric. He's something else. I love watching him. He's fun. End
They
up
said
watching a lot more Western Conference teams than Eastern Conference. So because I watched them after the Cavs games, and so I've watched a good amount of his play this year, and he's just fun. He's so fun.
Well, they questioned whether or not Ken Griffey Jr. was serious because he wore his hat backwards in batting practice. So, the media's got nothing better to do sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. So we talked about this before we started. You do the play-by-play for Mount Blue TV. We'll switch to high school now. You do the play-by-play with your brother for Mount Blue TV. You guys do a great job. So
Appreciate it.
what's kind of, because there's a lot of places that are thinking of streaming, and you guys have really been doing it longer than most. What's the thing you would tell a school that's thinking of, going into production and getting their game streaming and doing it upright?
Well, we luck out that Mount Blue TV is run by this guy, Andre Cormier, who's fantastic. So that's like the local broadcast TV station. And they mostly have migrated away from TV, obviously, towards Facebook and those live streaming things. But Andre's incredibly talented. He does some work with, he works with the Maine Celtics, and he's just a real expert in broadcasting, especially for this size of a school district and like a small town thing, and just does such a remarkable job. He produces it, and kind of depending on how many people are available, we'll have live replay and camera operators working on the sidelines and things like that. And it's great. We actually UMF men's basketball were the #1 seed last year, and so we did those games together with him as well. And the amount of work he puts in to kind of with the pregame package for things like that when he has a little bit more time to prepare is great. And so Andre, having someone with that sort of expertise in that area is huge. But at the same time, it's the product really comes down for me is just about being prepared and doing a little bit of research. It doesn't take much. You kind of have to learn just a small handful of players on each team. And if you're doing it for the school that you are hosting, you work at or whatever, it's really just comes down to like knowing a little bit about players and knowing like there are other things they do, other sports they play and things like that. And just you want to call the game, but also like it's interesting to hear about like, oh yeah, that kid's a 3-sport athlete and he's a great football player and also a great baseball player and various things like that. And just a little bit of research and a little bit of preparation goes a long way and really helps to elevate the product.
And it's so much easier to do the research than it was. Like when I was in college, I did play-by-play, and sometimes we would get a media guide, and we'd always get a roster, but sometimes we'd get the roster 10 minutes before tip. And you're just like, I don't know, man, this guy, you're watching warm-ups, like, this guy looks pretty good. I don't know. And then he's on the bench the whole game. And so the internet age just certainly helps that.
We have a great relationship too with the coaches, and so we'll get the statistics for the whole KBAC from Troy Norton, the boys coach at Mount Blue, and so that's so easy to just kind of keep up with that. And then also your website has been huge for me to just kind of be able to check out and look for just who should be winning this game based on their players. And, you know, we Mount Blue's in the KVAC Class A, and so it is a pretty closed league. They mostly play the teams in their league. It's not like Class B where we're seeing teams in various conferences. It's all KVAC teams, really. So it helps you kind of familiarize yourselves with everybody. Everyone plays each other. So you really know what to expect most of the time going into games in terms of if it will be competitive, if one team will win by a lot. And sometimes you get nice surprises like Mount Girls upsetting Skowhegan. But most of the time, you know, you go in with a story that you want to tell. Broadcasting is really about kind of telling a story while you're doing the games. And so my brother and I kind of talk beforehand and think about what narratives we kind of want to talk about during the game and which players to focus on and which matchups are really going to be interesting to keep an eye on and things like that. Highlight those things so that the fans watching know what to look for and to keep an eye on.
And it's always helpful to know that Mount Blue is favored by 5 or a 15-point underdog or something like that because, yeah, you know, it might come in handy.
Sure.
You know, it's like Al Michaels used to always, before you were allowed to talk about gambling on broadcast, he would always do the, boy, this field goal could be really interesting for some people in this concluded game that we all know who's going to win already, but this field goal is going to make some people very happy.
Yeah. Yep. Not sure there's a whole lot of betting going on for our local youth basketball, but yeah.
I don't think there is.
No,
I don't think there is, but I can tell you a number of times a coach has come up to me after the game and like coaches I don't even know. Like I've never met them before in my life. And this one coach comes up to me and goes, "Hey, we lost, but we beat the spread." I was like, "Yeah, you did.
There you go.
Good for you.
There you go.
Good
Great.
for you." And then so you also coach soccer, right? Your father was a soccer coach?
Yeah, my dad.
Oh, sorry.
My dad was the coach for about 10 years before I. No, you're good. Yeah, we're good to talk about that. Yeah, my dad was my dad played soccer at UMF when he was in college, and then when we moved back around here, he was always a boys coach in Dirigo, and then when we moved to Mount Blue, he took over the girls program here. And then when I got out of college, I actually had been away from the game. I actually kicked football for the football team my senior year of high school, and then kind of fell back in love with it through the Premier League, through college, and just decided I'm going to get back into it. I've always loved coaching. I started coaching when I was 14 with our local rec department. So I've coached more than half my life at this point. And just, got right back into it and learned from him for a handful of years. And then kind of as he was ready to wind down, we kind of did a little switcheroo there, and I'm the head coach and he's still my assistant, which has been beneficial to have, you know, a varsity level coach coaching the JV team for me has been fantastic and helped with that. And then my brother's actually the boys coach at the school as well. So it's been great. We can all kind of collaborate as a family.
I think it's like one of the more underrated things is to have someone with varsity experience as an assistant coach who isn't also trying to take over the team. Yeah. You know, and there's not a lot of those situations around the state, but every time you see it, if you notice it, you go, boy, this is kind of a really well coached team, because I mean, it's things you've seen and you know what to look for and help out the actual varsity coach getting everything. This sentence is falling apart on me. Do you know what I mean?
It happens. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, and the big thing too is coaching high school sports is not just coaching. You know, there's so much more to it. The fundraising, the organizing, the den for the home games, and all of that stuff. If I had just entered into a program as the head coach after maybe coaching a few years of club soccer or middle school soccer or whatever, I would have not even been remotely prepared for. And just having that level of knowledge and things like that, of just like the infrastructure of the team and things like that, it's like a huge thing that you don't have to worry about stuff because it just runs itself. You've been doing it for 20 years, like my father has, 20 plus years. So.
I kind of equate it a lot to if you're on an indie film shoot and if you have a director who's doing something else on the set, who's like maybe they're DPing or they're doing whatever, and then it's an extra set of eyes who knows that this thing over here is going to become a problem in 2 hours and can fix it before it becomes a problem in 2 hours. and that you don't get that necessarily if someone's maybe just a DP or just a boom op or whatever, or just an actor or whatever they are.
Yeah, I was in I went to film school actually, and I did a lot of art direction on like the more junior and senior shoots, and found myself doing a lot more just as much producing as art production at that point, and wearing way more hats than I signed up to wear on those sets. So yeah, it helps to have the well balanced nature there for sure.
All right. Well, that's we're just about running out of time. How can people find you other than your Letterboxd account, which is you might be the only person in Maine high school basketball Twitter who has a Letterboxd account as their link on their Twitter profile, which I get a kick out of.
Yeah, Twitter's dead, legitimately for me. I just use it for news really at this point. I'm not really using it for much interaction, but Letterboxd, that's where it's at. That's the only place you need to
That
follow
is where
me
it's at.
I think I'm at _ G. Yep, Letterboxd. It's the best social media. I'm on Blue Sky, but I don't think anyone else is yet. So
I don't know. I heard something about something going viral on Blue Sky, so somebody's there. I'm not. I'm there, but not really there. So we'll turn this into a Letterboxd thing for a minute. What are your Letterboxd 4 faves? And I don't have the special microphone with the sticker on it that they do, but for those who don't know, Letterboxd does this.
Yeah. So my 4 favorite movies on Letterboxd, which might be my 4 favorite movies, but are definitely in my top 10-ish. So number 1 is Heat, Michael Mann, one of the greatest action movies of all time. Just undefeated. That movie's perfect. Michael Mann's one of our greatest. Number 2, David Lowery's A Ghost Story. Not like a super popular, probably on a lot of top 4s, but just a really beautiful movie about art and creation and the legacy people leave behind. Weird one, Todd Haynes' Safe from 1995. Great, weird, like not really well seen Julianne Moore movie. And then the Jonathan Demme concert film, Stop Making Sense, with the Talking Heads, which just had a big anniversary last year and got re-released theatrically. So bunch of weird artsy movies and Heat. So
David Lowery is a friend of mine. I've known him since he was like sleeping on people's couches, like before Pit Stop, before when he was just doing short films and like blogging. I knew him through the old blog hemisphere or blogger world or whatever. So mine, I looked it up. He's amazing. He's amazing. So my 4 is currently on here. I don't even know. Who knows? I'm looking at this going, really? This is what I put? All right. Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage, which is the movie that like doubled the divorce rate in Europe. Casablanca. Todd Fields in the.
Did you watch the TV show?
The TV for Scenes from a Marriage. Yeah, I watched the full version, the full 6-hour one.
No. But did they redo that with Oscar Isaac and?
Oh no, I didn't, because I think that's sacrilege. Yeah. I do not accept that.
Okay, that's fair. It was good. It was well acted.
All right. So then Casablanca, In the Bedroom, which is the best film ever made in the state of Maine, with a great Tom Wilkinson performance, and then of course Hoosiers.
Nice, it's great.
So you got to put Hoosiers in there because, like,
my sports movie would be Moneyball.
Oh, Moneyball's really good. Yeah. I rewatched that the other day and I was like, oh, this is better than I remember. But I do wish we had gotten the Soderbergh Moneyball.
Yeah.
Because I heard the script was like bizarre.
So that's my guy. Soderbergh's my number 1 all time. So I would have preferred the Soderbergh one. But yeah, the ending just gets me. That's a movie. That's quite a performance by Brad Pitt. Yeah, I love Moneyball. So
I love he's just eating the whole time, and then Jonah Hill's doing weird things. Great. It's great.
Yep.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I just love the scene where they're like talking to Pratt about how hard it is to play first base, and Ron Washington's like, it's incredibly hard. I don't know. There's something about that line delivery I think just is awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. That ending, just every time listening to the recording from his daughter, I love that movie.
Awesome. All right, so we are just about out of time. The Maine Basketball Rankings podcast is a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your most comprehensive source for Maine high school basketball coverage from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. And that's it. That's our time. So like, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so much, Griffin, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a great time.
All right. We'll hit end the stream and we'll see you next time pretty soon.